Good afternoon, teacher. Today we're going to talk about the history of Ecuadorian educational curriculum. And let's start. In 1944, education was important. It was taken more into account, and it was reflected in 1944 with 2,500 of primary public schools and 54 kindergartens and 25 secondary public schools, in which students have the opportunity to study two cycles. In the first cycle, they have to study 4 years of general culture, and in the second cycle, they could decide if they want to study a specialization that lasts around 2 years. And generally, the specialization was related to mathematics, physics, and biology.
Okay, then we have 1950. In this year, there was an improvement in the school's structures, and also there were study plans and the creation of didactic materials. However, there was an aspect that didn't meet the community needs, such as the single teacher schools for a dispersed population. Additionally, in this year, English as a foreign language was included in the curriculum of the schools. And because of the lack of qualified teachers, this subject was taught by teachers who little knew about how to teach a foreign language and all the strategies used in the classroom.
Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the education in Ecuador during the years 1960 and 1964. But first, I would like to start by mentioning that this was a crucial period for Ecuador, the 16th, because there were many problems, both political, economical, and also social. That was something that affected directly education. These problems were caused by the bad circumstances that existed in that moment within the government. So then the government itself realized that education is not something that can be omitted, and it is one of the most important things in the development of a country. So that's why in the year 1964 there was an implementation for educational budget that gave the opportunity to expand education to the rural areas where education before was something that was limited. So it was something that provided same opportunities for everyone. So then also there was implementation in secondary. There was an implementation of the basic cycle and the diversified cycle. The basic cycle included the compulsory subjects that we know that are mathematics, literature, natural science, social science, physical education, and arts. So on the other hand, the diversified cycle, that is also known as BGU, was characterized because it included short programs of study that were based on specializations on specific areas.
Continue with the 1992, which is the year in which Cradle Plan was created. It was a combination between the UK government with the Ecuadorian government, which aimed to try to help, to improve the education of English as a foreign language, but it didn't have enough impact, and it was not a success because of the lack of resources that the Ecuadorian government had. Now let's continue with 1996, which is the year that some literature called as a reform, but others just say that it was the year of important and relevant changes in the Ecuadorian educational system. It was the first reform or relevant changes supported by UNESCO and UNICEF to try to make to try to reach those students who haven't access to education to reach an access and trying to um, being more inclusive. Let's remember that the aim of the Ecuadorian in these years were to be more inclusive and try to be more equitative, but it was it was accomplished between of the resources, the lack of the resources, and the lack of and the small budget of the government. There were some changes in the Ecuadorian curriculum with an emphasis on inclusion of subjects such as intercultural education, education for citizenship, and the environmental education, which were some subjects included to the common law. So in this year was also the creation of new students plan for Educación General Básica. The duration of Educación General Básica was extended from 8 years to 10 years, incorporating the 2 years that is 8 and what that is ninth and 10th grade before entering to secondary school. This year was also the year in which the 10-year education plan was presented and began to implement it. The program Education for Change was implemented also in this year, 1996, and its main objective was to improve the quality of education in the country, and it focused on the teacher education, training, updating curricula, and improving educational evaluation process, which was something that didn't have enough focus. So it was also the improve of some educational infrastructure, but it didn't have a lot of impact on education.
Okay, then in 2006, the 10-year education plan was promoted, and the main policies were to provide an early childhood education for children under 5 years of age, and also the general basic education was generalized from 1st to 10th grade, and another policy was to provide an inclusive and equitable education.
Okay, in 2011, it was the creation of the LOE. So the LOE was the one that guaranteed the right of education in Ecuador. And so for that reason, in this year, the curriculum for the baccalaureate came into force by ministerial agreement. So the purpose of this curriculum was to provide the students with a general education in accordance with their age, and this came to replace the set of plans and programs by a specialization that had been used up to that time for this level of education.
Okay, in 2016, the reform Aprendemos Juntos was implemented. In this reform, it's important to mention some characteristics. The first one is that it implemented inclusive education. The reform promotes inclusive education, ensuring access and permanence for all students without discrimination based on gender, ethnicity, disabilities, or other conditions. The next is continuous teacher training. Emphasis was placed on the continuous education and training for teachers, providing opportunities for updating pedagogical methodologies, curricular content, and educational technology. And finally, this reform implemented incorporation of the technology in classroom. The reform promotes the use of educational technology as a support tool in the teaching and learning process. Thank you.